Good day guys and welcome to class. In today's class we'll be looking at valid and invalid pullback, how to identify a valid pullback and an invalid pullback, how to spot them when they appear on the chart, what are the things to look out for when you are trying to identify a valid and an invalid pullback. So these are what we'll be looking at in today's class, and by the end of this class you'll be able to identify a valid pullback, you'll be able to spot out an invalid pullback and how to identify it and what to look out for when trying to spot them out. So follow me while I take you through the theory aspect where we define a valid pullback and an invalid pullback, and then I take you into the chart where we have it demonstrated. So by the way of definition, I said a valid pullback for a bullish trend is when a recent candle sweep or close below the low of a previous candle. I'm going to take that again. I said a valid pullback for a bullish trend is when a recent candle sweep or close below the low of the previous candle. So the key word to note here is recent candle sweep or closing below the low of previous candle. So these are the keywords to note when you are looking at a bullish pullback. Now, for a bearish pullback, I said a bearish valid pullback is when the recent candle sweep or close above the high of the previous candle. So for a bearish trend, I said a valid pullback for a bearish trend is when a recent candle sweep or close above the high of the previous candle. Also, in this case, the keyword to note here is a recent candle sweeping or closing above the high of the previous candle. A recent candle sweeping or closing above the high of the previous candle. So these are the keywords to note. So in a bullish trend, we are looking at the recent candle closing below the low. Either it sweep or it closed below the low of the previous candle. And for a bearish trend, we are looking at a recent candle sweeping or closing above the high of the previous candle. Remember, in a trend, the bullish trend is characterized by a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, thereabout. So this pause in the trend or this little reversal in the trend is what we refer to as pullback in a bullish trend. So that little reversal is what we refer to as pullback. Also, in a bearish trend, the bearish trend is characterized by a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So all these little reversals in the trend or little setback, as the case might be, or pullback in the trend is what we refer to as pullback. This little setback or drag back is what we refer to as pullback. But sometimes, not in all cases that this happens to be a valid pullback. There are situations where it is just an SMT, a smart money trap, so that they can trap the little traders and take their money. The big traders trap them and take their money from them. So that's why you need to understand a valid pullback and you know how to spot them in the chart. So according to our candle anatomy, we said every candle is made up of a high and a low. Remember, in the candle anatomy, we have the opening, we have the close as well, we have the high, we have the low, and we have the body, which is a range between the opening and the close of the candle. So the opening is here, the opening, sorry, is here, the close is here, then we have the high and we have the low, and all of this happens to be the body of the candle. So, and we say according to our definition, but the valid pullback we said is when, for a bullish trend, is when we sweep or close below the low of the previous candle. So when we have something like this candle becomes our recent candle, but the moment another candle is being formed, this happens to be our recent candle, candle one, recent candle. So it becomes our recent candle, but the moment this candle is being formed, it becomes our previous candle. Candle one becomes our previous candle, and our attention now is to see whether this very candle two that just formed here, if it closed below the low. So as you can see, this candle closed below the low. We can now say we have a pullback, but this pullback is not yet confirmed until we now have another candle that maybe close above. So we can now say we have something like this and like this. So remember, I told you it's like this, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and this setback is what we refer to as pullback. So as you can see here, we now have a kind of a setback here. So that happens to be our pullback. Also in a bearish trend as well, remember, in a bearish trend, I said it's made up of a lower low, lower highs, lower low, lower highs, lower low, lower highs, lower low. And I say that this setback is what we refer to as pullback. So, and in a bearish trend, according to our definition, we say when a recent candle sweep or close above the high of previous candle. So this is the high and this is the low. So when we now have this becomes our candle one, which is our previous candle. When we create another candle like this, it becomes our recent candle, and this recent candle now close above the high of this previous candle. So the moment this recent candle that we have here, which is maybe our candle two, the moment it close above the high of this previous candle, we can now say we have a pullback like this. But the pullback is not confirmed until we close and continue the trend like this. So we can now say we have something like this, because I told you in a bearish trend is lower lows, lower highs, lower low, lower highs. So this is for the trend. So let's get more into the chart where the candles are being numbered, so that we have more refined definition and explanation to what we are trying to understand about pullback now. Now, in the in a bullish scenario, I beg your pardon, we have candle one, we have candle two, we have candle three, and candle four. Now, and we say that in a bearish situation, in a bullish situation, we said is when the recent candle closed below the low of the previous candle. The recent candle closing below the low of the previous candle, we can now say we have a valid pullback. So candle one, this is the high of candle one, and this is the low. So the moment candle two is printed, candle two becomes our recent candle, candle one becomes our previous candle. So our focus moved from candle one into candle two. So let's check candle two. Did candle two close below the low? No, candle two did not close below the low. Instead, candle two closed above the high. So yet we have not confirmed the pullback, because the pullback say we must close below the low of previous candle. So candle two now becomes our previous candle the moment candle three is printed. So, and in candle two, this is the low of candle two, and this is the high of candle two. So we need to now check, did candle three close below the low of candle two? Yes, you can see, as you can see here, candle 3 has closed below the low of candle 2. And then let's check our candle 4. So in this case, we can now say we have a pullback, but the pullback is not yet confirmed until the third candle or the fourth candle goes above to continue the trend. Our candle 4 close above this. So we can now say we have something like this, and like this. So which is to tell us, if we move this outside, you can see that we now have this setback that we say we now have this something like this setback. So let's look at a bearish scenario. And remember, in a bearish trend, we said that in a bearish trend, that when a recent candle closes above the high of the previous candle, we can say we have a valid pullback. So this is our recent candle right now. This is our candle one, is our recent candle. So let's check. Candle 2 now becomes our recent candle when it's printed. Candle 1 becomes our previous candle. Did candle 2 close above this high? No, candle 2 did not close above. Instead, candle 2 went below. So we can say we don't have a pullback yet. So our attention is now on this candle 2 to see if any other candle closes above the high. So let's check. Candle 3 is printed. It becomes our recent candle. Candle 2 becomes our previous candle. Did candle 3 close above the high of candle 2? Yes, we can see it sweep above the high. So we can now say we have a pullback like this. But this pullback is not confirmed until the trend continue like this, until we have a candle that closed below here. So we now saw candle 4 now came and candle 4 closed below. So this setback here is what we refer to as pullback. So this is how a valid pullback is. I'll be coming back with more video where I'll be bringing complex examples and situations on how to identify a valid pullback. So we'll be citing a lot of examples and we go into the chart proper. So until then, stay tuned. Thank you.